This seminar will be all about what excites you about consulting. My name is Sean Cordova. I'll be your MC for this seminar. And joining me today are Ms. Zandra, Mr. Michael, and Mr. Marlon as the panelists for this seminar. We'll be discussing about the importance of doing self-studies of Salesforce through the intuitive learning platform called Trailhead and how it will help you during your Salesforce career journey. Our first questions for the panelists will be, so how did all of you get into Salesforce Consulting?
Thank you for that question, Sean. So I'll answer it first. In my case, in my previous company, I've been a capability manager for one of the platforms in the said consulting company, and then I got transferred into the sales and marketing group as the client visits lead. And then within my tenure as the client visit lead, I requested for a transfer to the Salesforce department. So that company is an Irish-based multinational professional services company. So when I requested for the transfer, I joined the cloud computing group of the same company. That's on my end. How about you, Marlon?
Sorry, I'm on mute, but okay, for me, it's a different path from Sandra. So prior to Salesforce, actually, I've been working with different technologies and implemented solutions to help business grow and drive me to continue to expand my knowledge. So during those times, I came across to one of my clients that uses Salesforce. And I was very amazed really about this technology. Basically, if you browse your Trailhead, you could build your own application with no code, meaning it's easy to implement and flexible and can be accessed anytime, anywhere. So after that, I made actually my research on how to get trained in Salesforce. I think it's way back last 2011 or 12. And then I got excited to the technology. So after that, I trained myself and learned the technology. And luckily, I got an opportunity to become as a solution consultant of Salesforce, and the rest was history. And currently, right now, I'm leading the Salesforce team with Deloitte PDC. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, so for me, my story is actually quite funny. So right after I graduated from college, there were a number of consulting firms that I applied for, regardless of the platform they specialized in. But for some unknown reason, none of them got back to me until one day, one firm took a chance on me. And it was from that company that I got to learn about Salesforce. So once I knew how the platform works and saw the potential of this emerging technology, I decided to stick with it. So ever since I graduated from college up to this date, so I was only a consultant for Salesforce. So, and yeah, like Marlon mentioned earlier, uh, uh, it's history.
So
Thank you,
as
Mike, for that. Sean, go ahead.
yes, thank you, Ms. Zandra. So as you heard just now, they all have different experiences that brought them to where they are now today, which is at the Salesforce Consulting Department. So on to the next question, Mr. Marlon. What about your university experience do you draw in your day-to-day work?
All right, sure. Maybe I could share something that I've been experienced before. So first, when I after graduation, then I realized that communication and teamwork is very important. Um, I have been taken university courses that involve group projects and help me develop my skills for both formal and informal needs. So if you join that, it will also teach you an essential communication and social skills such as active listening and public speaking or effective speaking. And it also teaches you to express your ideas and opinions effectively and sometimes respectfully and confidently in group setting that improves your self-confidence, that your voices are respected and valued. So, and then another point is that time management. It's really very important to increase efficiency and productivity, especially, diba, sometimes we're on the university schedules, busy. And then I can some provide you some recommendations that I can share that really help me. Number one is you should avoid distractions. So whether during your class or self-studying, let's avoid or limit using our cell phones. Of course, sometimes social medias can distract us, but this is something that you can think about. We're not saying that it's effective for you, but for me, avoid distractions is very effective for me. Um, Second is set goals. So, what is your goal for this whole semester, for example, in university? Do you want to be good in programming, or do you want to join university groups? Or for these sessions, do you really want to be a Salesforce consultant? Setting goals is something that is measurable and something that you can think about during this course. And then, of course, very important for busy schedule, stress in the school, you should take time off. So this is the effective way to hang out with your friends, or you could sleep a lot, or something like that, or anything that re-energize you and motivate you out of stress. So I think that's the points that I can share. So hopefully, it could help you also during your stay with college.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Marlon. So, can you provide a specific example of how you use the skills acquired for your current project?
Okay, sure, Sean. So basically, the points that I discussed earlier, I actually applied it on the real world, which is my current company or previous companies as well. So communication and planning are the best way to move forward, especially if you're in IT. First, you must plan the project timeline. So meaning, though you have a project manager, of course, as a developer, you also have an understanding of the project timeline, whether it's the start of the project or end of the project. You must or we must also plan out how we're going to collaborate during the project. Whether, let's say, currently right now it's a remote setup. So what tools are we going to use, like Zoom, Hangouts, and we will be going to set up a daily or weekly meetings, which are very important for the success of the project. So just to give you an idea for the daily meeting that we're doing, it's most likely team members are encouraged to speak up and discuss all issues. So all of the project team, there's a one meeting like 50 minutes, 30 minutes every day to discuss issues, impediments, and questions that can act accordingly and resolve the blockers if needed. So I think if you boils down to it, it's teamwork is the success, the key to success for this.
Thanks, Mr. Marlon, for the thoughtful answer. So, to reiterate the key points mentioned, first you need to have a communication plan. Then you need to plan the project timeline and deliverables. Make sure to set expectations and prioritization. Conduct daily team meetings to discuss any blockers that you have encountered. And finally, to have a project status meeting with all the clients. You have to be very transparent so that you'll be able to progress forward. So, next, I have a question for you, Mr. Mike. So, what are some of the hard skills that you have learned back at university that you find helpful?
I would say most important hard skill I've learned in college would be the basic program. So, even though Apex, which is the Salesforce programming language, wasn't taught in school, knowing the basics and how logic works would always remain the same, regardless of the programming language. Another critical hard skill would be technical writing. So, I'm not sure if our participants here have already gone through their thesis, but we all know that we hated that documentation part of it. The good news is that everything that you applied in your thesis, you'll be able to use them at the start of your career. So in my case, learning the technical documentation has helped me in the beginning of my career to translate any development or coding work into a technical document.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. So, Ms. Zandra, how did you apply your studies overall for your day-to-day work and career?
Oh, sorry, Sean. I think before I answer to that question, I'm curious to know if Mike can provide a specific example of how is how he is using that skill that he mentioned earlier on his current project.
Of course, no problem, no problem. So, myself as a Salesforce consultant, we are mostly involved in the technical needs of a project. So having the programming fundamentals that I've learned in college paved the way for me to understand Apex and the other Salesforce UI frameworks, namely Visual Force, Lightning Aura components, and Lightning Web components. So other than developing my own code, so being able to understand the coding language, there are other tasks which also require for it. For instance, there are code review activities within a project in which you evaluate your colleagues' work. So that's one example. And as I've mentioned in my previous answer, technical writing will always be a part of a consultant's day-to-day activities. One example would be so even before a consultant starts any coding writing codes, we basically draft a technical solution design, and once the actual code is done or developed and fully working, that is where we now start to write the technical specifications.
Thank you for that, Mike. I hope some of our attendees here, especially those who attended the first session, can already identify some of the Salesforce technical um, terms that you've used, such as Visual Force, Lighting, Aura components, and the likes. So, Sean, to answer your question in terms of how I applied my studies in my overall day-to-day work and career. So I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, and that degree prepared me for the task that I need in order for me to do my duties as a delivery manager. So most of my CS subjects, I'm sure you know what those CS subjects are for. I'm not gonna mention because some of them might be obsolete already, but they have helped me gain a deeper understanding on the scope of work of the projects that were assigned to me. So later on, when I discuss the specifics of the delivery manager roles and responsibilities, it's actually mainly focused on admin work, but having that grasp on the platform that your project is using will really help you get a deeper understanding of what the team is working on, so that they can, if they raise risk or issues, you will be able to address it accordingly, because of course you understand the technical implementation of the project that you're working on. Over to you, Sean.
All right, thank you, Ms. Zandra. And can you give an example of how you are using that skill during your day-to-day work?
Sure, Sean. If you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not going to drain the slide, but for those of you who have attended the first session, I'm sure you already heard about iCare, which is the largest Salesforce implementation not only Salesforce, largest digital implementation that we've done in the Philippines Delivery Center. So here, iCare is an insurance in care company. So you can see how big it is by the sheer number of employers and employees that it insures. So the problem that they're trying to solve is that they wanted to unify 5 disparate systems into one. So they've done that by implementing the front end presentation layer using Sitecore. They've used MuleSoft Cloud Hub platform for the system integration, and of course Salesforce for their claims management system, and thus disease claims management system. So that's the overview of the project that we've handled here in Deloitte, which is eye care. If you can go to the next slide, please, Sean. So I just wanted to show you how our teams are organized here in Manila. So as you know, we have a Manila team. This is the composition of the Philippines Delivery Center team. I would be the delivery manager in the first box that you see. And I would have, or we would have a counterpart in Australia, a counterpart for me as a delivery manager. In the case of eye care, we're using agile delivery methodology. You will see the different developers and QA involved in the Australian team. We would normally call it the QA team. And the Manila team and the Australia team collaborate on a day-to-day basis by a daily stand-up meeting. And then, of course, the different prioritization of the task will be approved by the product owner. So the Scrum, the BA, the product owners are just different roles in an agile implementation. So this is how we are organized here in the Philippines Delivery Center. If you can go to the next slide, Sean. So again, I will not bring the slides, but these are the different tools and apps that we're using. Some of this you are already familiar with, like Excel, of course. We're using Git for version control, as well as Bitbucket, Jira, and Confluence for tracking of the deliverables via creating a user story for project deliverable. Confluence is mainly used for collaboration between the onshore and the offshore team. For DevOps or continuous integration, we're using Bamboo, Selenium for automated testing, and then the different technologies that you can see here. Some of the agile ceremonies that we're doing is the daily Scrum and the sprint review, of course. Next slide, please, Sean. So if you will work in the Philippines Delivery Center, this would probably be a day in your life. So how you start your day and how you will end your day. You, of course, the shift would be depending on the onshore team that you will be working on. In our case, this is the Australian team. So this is the time schedule. Of course, we start very early in the morning by working on the deliverables. Since iCare is a big project, it's a scrum of scrums. So every scrum team would normally have their daily stand-up meeting. Then they will be working on their deliverables and generate daily builds and deployments. And if ever there will be support or anything that they need to do to complete their deliverables will be done throughout the day. In my last slide for this discussion. Next slide, please, Sean. Okay, so to finally answer the question, so this would be a day in the life of a delivery manager. So we are responsible for resource management. So the resource management would entail, of course, managing the resources time. If they have any PTO, making sure that the resources that you deploy on the project has the right skills, has the right tools and permission or knowledge to do their task. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have the technical knowledge on the platform implementation, like in this case, Sitecore, MuleSoft, and Salesforce, it will help you be more effective to do resource management because you know what the project needs from a technical resource standpoint. And then that, of course, will help you make sure that your resources are onboarded properly in terms of the accesses that they'll need. And then if they have any learning gaps, as you can see in the learning initiatives, it will also help you address those gaps because, again, as you mentioned, you have a background on the technical platform. having also a technical understanding of the platform implementation will help you address issue. So that issue can be a quality problem in the deliverables. So how will you be able to address that? Of course, you'll need your technical knowledge. You need your process knowledge, as mentioned earlier by Marlon. And then, of course, as a delivery manager, you have to ensure that you deliver on time, within quality, and then within budget. So all throughout the activities of a delivery manager, your know-how, your technical knowledge, your knowledge on Salesforce, your knowledge on Sitecore or MuleSoft will help you ensure that whatever the developers deliver are within quality, on time, and of course within budget. So long story short, as a delivery manager, having that technical knowledge, kahit na level 2 lang or yung hindi naman kahit hindi deep understanding as a developer yung knowledge mo on Salesforce or the different technical implementation, I think it's still essential for you to do your work as a delivery manager.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zandra, for a thoughtful answer. And to the wonderful question you gave to Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, thank you for answering that as well. So on to the next question for Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, what are the new passions and interests you have acquired since you have started your career?
I wouldn't say new passion or interest, but ever since I started working, I've revived my passion for reading books. So there's no specific genre that I'm very fond of, but one of my favorite authors is Paulo Coelho. So, and even though I've read his books multiple times, I still find it surprising that I learn a different lesson each time I go through it. So, one helpful habit of mine is that, whenever I have one of those bad days at work, well, actually, regardless if it's work or, or a personal matter, I just pick a random book and start reading it. So, just to ease and clear my mind of whatever is bothering me.
Oh, that's an interesting response. Thank you, Mr. Michael. How about you, Mr. Marlon? Any passions or interests you have gained during the start of your career?
Yeah, I think actually after you graduate, just on the standpoint, sometimes you cannot find your own passion yet until such time that you gain experience and you will be able to see what's happening in your career. So in my case, I have gained passion for bringing best solution to the client. So more on the consulting side, that's really my passion. And I've been in a consulting for many years now. And whenever, let's say, I implemented a solution that helps client achieve their goals, it's very fulfilling for me. And it's been, whenever it have been valuable to the clients, really fulfilling for me. It's an achievement for me. That's really my passion. And secondly is that when I came to the leadership position as a leader, I also like to help my team grow. And most especially, I would like them to be successful in their career. I think that's it, Sean.
Oh, wow. Do you think you could share in more detail about these passions that help shape your current career growth?
Actually, I was able to help my team successfully deliver projects. I think a lot of projects already been delivered, and I also mentor them to be better professionals. I mean, that's really my entire goal to be a leader as well, to be a leader in Salesforce. And currently, right now, since we're here and you're here, we're now looking to build and extend job opportunities for you and being part of a very great company, which is Deloitte, and being part of a great team with us.
That's a very awe-inspiring answer. Thank you, Mr. Marlon. What about you, Ms. Zandra? Any passions or interests you have gained since you started your career?
Hey, Sean. So apart from consulting, I also have a passion for teaching. Actually, my first job is a college professor in a university where I graduated from. when I move into consulting, I would normally look for opportunities to train others, and the world-class CSR initiative of Deloitte allowed me to fulfill my sense of passion and purpose by giving back to the community to leverage our core expertise in helping youth to develop the skills necessary to succeed, improve access to and quality of education, and ultimately create new opportunities for them. How about you, Sean? Do you have an area of potential focus that you've identified at Deloitte at the very early stage of your career?
Ooh, a question for me now. Well, currently, what I want to focus on right now is to improve my skills to the Salesforce platform, earn certificates to add to my CV, and the most important thing of all, to continue studying. Because even after you graduate from your college or university, there are still a lot more things that you need to learn about. So even after that, all that, even while doing work, you always need to find time to study. You'll never stop studying even after you graduate, or like even while working. So then that's necessary to help you grow during your career. So thank you all for your wonderful response. So on to the next question for all of you. What is the one thing that you would have done differently in college if you all knew what you were doing right now?
Okay, let me go first, Mike here. So, if I was still in college, I would say I should have researched on the emerging technologies and programming languages, because back then, like a decade ago, I only knew of the popular ones like SAP. While for programming languages, I would while I was still studying, I would have elected for a curriculum which was either exactly the language I was aiming for, or at least the closest one to it. So for in this case, for Apex, which is the Salesforce programming language, I think the closest language to it would be Java. So unfortunately, we didn't have it back then when I was still in college. Another thing to check out is the different roles that's available in the consulting industry. So, like I mentioned in our previous session, I was a bit uninformed, thinking that if a person is going into the IT industry, it only meant being a developer.
Hmm.
How about you, Marlon?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mike. So for me, I think I'm on different approach as well. If I wanted to go back in college, so I guess I would like to be more. Let's say joining more clubs or university clubs. That's what I wanted to do, and attend training conducted by universities. So I wanted to leverage and maximize if there's a training available that is free for universities. I would like to attend on that, and universities, and I mean by seminars related to corporate IT world. I think it is very important to attend those things as well to help you actually to prepare you for your next journey after school. So I guess my only advice is, as students, learn as much as you can and find your weaknesses and find ways to improve on them.
Definitely
Thanks,
agree,
Sandra. Yeah.
Marlon.
Sorry, Anne.
In Go ahead. Sorry, I think
Go ahead, Sandra.
someone's waiting. Okay, thank you, Marlon. So in my case, I think I would increase my appetite on learning new things, particularly on the movers and shakers of the IT industry, so that I can align my career goals accordingly. Just to expound that a bit more, so in most of you are currently still in university. Some are already graduating. Um, at this point in your career, I think it's important for us to know what will be needed in when you graduate. So we would normally call it the jobs in the fourth industrial revolution. In particular, in our experience here in Deloitte, the most in-demand skills would be cloud computing. So that would, of course, include Salesforce. It's a good opportunity for everyone in the call right now to you've already started the exploration of the trailhead. It's for you to continue exploring more about the trailhead training, the trailhead community, so that you can prepare yourselves on what is needed when you finally go into job application and eventually enter the industry. So, Sean, before we actually recap the session, are there any questions from the students? You can either use the chat box or you can feel free to show your faces to us, open your video or your cameras, and you can chat and ask us anything about what you've heard about today in today's session. Okay, so I'll let you think about the questions that you can ask from your panelists. For the meantime, from the answers of our panelists kanina, you can see that most of us have mostly similar degrees that we took during our college days. We have our different Salesforce journey. We also have our different skills. But I think the common denominator with all of us is that we're really enjoying doing consulting, leadership work, delivery management in Salesforce. As you know, Salesforce skills is one of the in-demand and largest growing community, not only in the Philippines, but globally. So with that, Sean, do you want to tell them a bit more about the Seminar 3?
Oh, I wish I would, but that would be spoiling everyone. But I sure like some tips and tricks about what's it like being a Salesforce consultant.
Go ahead, Sean. Sean, you wanted to share some tips and tricks you mentioned earlier? You said you wanted to mention some tips and tricks. Or
yes.
is there any? Go ahead.
Oh, I would, but that's all saved for Seminar 3.
All right. Okay, I didn't get that. Sorry, Sean. Maybe we can go to Q&A. France, if you're still here, patulong kami siguro to ask some of the students if they do have any questions for any of the panelists here.
Yeah, I think thank you, Zandria, and of course to all of our panelists for the wonderful discussion. And I think we really got to personal for these for this session. And I hope some of our participants actually kind of relate to all of you. So I think to all of our participants, if you have any questions, perhaps if you want to ask Zandria, how is it like being a woman in the IT industry? How is it like? Because of course, diba, parang you always feel na the IT industry is a male-dominated work or industry. So how is it like? Baka perhaps Sandra, that's my question to you already. But baka that's putting you on the spot. But if you can share, and of course, because I think most of our participants here are actually female or women. So I probably would like to hear from someone who's who's thriving in this IT field. So at least they get to better, they get to be motivated further. And of course, while Xandra's preparing for her motivational speech to our women here, Of course, feel free to ask any specifics. Baka meron pa kayong questions from the past session that you want to take up about Salesforce. Baka you want to dive deep to the personal experiences of our panelists. Feel free to ask them questions, and we have a few minutes pa naman to answer them for you. Okay.
Oh, friends, should I answer first or should we pick the first question on the chat?
Yeah, I think we have those questions already. So at least meron ka ding time to prepare. But I think according to Adriana, good afternoon, is the company accepting internships? And actually, I think related to the question, I received a direct message. So I think for anonymity, I think it's also related. Is Deloitte open for internships? And how would you describe the culture of Deloitte?
Oh, okay. So I'll take that one. We do have an internship program, but I think there is a schedule for the internship session. We would normally align it to the university calendar, so that is normally announced in the Deloitte social media. So if you're not yet following Deloitte in Facebook, if you're not yet following Deloitte in Instagram, please do so, because that's where we would normally post if we are already starting the internship program. But I am proud to say that Sean here is one of the first interns that we've accepted in Deloitte, and we are happy to say that he has been thriving in the project that he is deployed to. So maybe we can ask Sean about his experience as an intern in Deloitte. But to answer your question, Adriana, yes, we're accepting internship or interns.
So during my time as an intern at Deloitte, first impression was everyone's pretty warm and friendly, like really, really friendly. Like even like when there are questions I don't know, I've been guided accordingly. And during breaks, we would hang out at the game room. So there's this game room we have back at the office where it has ping pong table, and yeah, it was pretty fun. Like we would like bet on who'd buy drinks, so like loser gets to buy winner drinks and all that. And yeah, and they also like walk me through like the work culture, and they're really nice. Like it's it has a very welcoming atmosphere that I can say. You are free to speak your mind out, and even as an intern, like when you're placed in projects, so you've been given like real hands-on experience. And I remember this one time where I was in project, like there's this one project from New Zealand, so there's this part where everyone's like they're encouraged to give out their inputs. And since all of us interns were treated as equals at that time, so I was able to voice out my opinions, like, okay, how about we go with this solution? Then they took what I suggested into consideration, seriously at that. And after that, when they say like, oh hey, this is actually pretty good job. And it made me feel like, oh wow, so this is what it's like being an employee at Deloitte. Like I felt it was like a proud moment for me as an intern, really proud moment. And it was also just during my internship where I happened to meet Miss Zandra. Like I remember those days. She was very friendly, very accommodating too. She also helped me walk through like, for example, like where's from the basic things like, hey Ms. Zandra, do you know where I can find a restroom, or where's the printer so I can print out the documents for my project team leader? So yeah, she'd guide me accordingly, and we'd also have casual talk over lunch, and we'd also be joined with my other fellow interns from my school, along with the other project team members and our buddies. Very, very warm, like very warm atmosphere. Like makes me wish I could revisit those days. Oh, I feel so old now that I'm talking about that. That was like years ago now. So yeah, that's experience I had as being an intern, one of the first interns of Deloitte, and yeah, it's a very awesome experience. So if you have any interest at all, like being an intern at Deloitte, then give it a shot. I guarantee you won't regret it.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, I think I think our learners here are already seeing the success story, like like a walking or talking testament of of being a Deloitte intern to becoming like a full time employee. So I think in the interest of time, Xander, do you want to pick up that question ready before
Oh,
we move on
uh,
to the rest of the program?
I think for some time now, it has always been a challenge to have more women in IT. Primarily because not a lot of students or female students would take bachelor of science in computer science or engineering courses because they think that those courses are really for males. What's interesting right now is that um, if you are a woman in IT, ako kasi medyo ano na medyo oldie na ng konti compared sa inyo. But for those of you female students here, nagbabago na yung landscape in terms of yung ratio ng male and female sa industry. But we really need to encourage more female students to take up computer science, engineering courses, IT courses, because eventually when you enter the IT industry, that will really contribute to the diversity and inclusion initiatives of the company. So particularly in the boardroom, in the leadership room, it's important for the female to have a voice on how the company's direction would be. So yung perspective ng babae doon sa direction ng company in terms of I think everything from resourcing, recruitment to the culture of the company to having the diversity and inclusion initiatives on working moms, single moms, even LGBTQ community would normally come from female IT consultants or IT specialists. So your voice as a female IT consultant will really help shape the company where you're in, and eventually, of course, the IT industry not only in the Philippines but in the global playing field as well.
Thank you, Xandra, and I hope the female or the women here in this call are kind of motivated to pursue a career, and of course, hopefully it will be with Deloitte. So, yeah, Sean, do you want to continue with the program?
Okay, so we'll be now closing out the topics for the seminar. So just to reiterate, it's very important that you continue your effort in continuing your studies, and once you have access to your trailhead accounts, be sure to gain as many badges as you can, as this will directly help you if you're planning to. It'll be a huge bonus if you're going to apply at Deloitte. So yeah. Oops.
May I, Sean? Okay, so I think
Sorry,
I think
Fran,
yeah, go
Sean.
ahead.
So I'm just wondering if everybody in this call are already familiar with Trailhead, or if you already know how to create your Trailhead account. Anyone from the students? Sorry, I'll have to mention some of your names. Cyril, Matthew, May, Emerson, Curly, Harold. Okay, if just in case some of you are not yet familiar, if Joey's still in the call, maybe he can just give us a quick overview on what the Trailhead community is, and if they don't know yet how to create an account, Joey would be very much happy to help us. Over to you, Joey.
So here, so if you don't have an account or if you're logged out, going to trailhead.salesforce.com will bring you to this landing screen. So you're able to click on sign up or log in. So if you click on sign up, you should have the ability to link your Google account, which is what I have. You can also link your LinkedIn, Apple ID, or Facebook. So you don't necessarily have to create a new email ID or username just for this activity. But since I have an account, I'm just going to click login. It'll actually let me log in via my Gmail, kind of single sign-on. And then it'll bring you to your home screen. So your home screen is going to be where all your different badges are available for you to learn. So in last week's email, the newsletter email, as well as what we'll be sending out this week, we're going to provide a list of recommended tools that you can try out to get more familiarized with Salesforce. And so when you finish a badge, right? So let's say I have, I earned that 12 more badge. We're able to track how many badges you have, to just kind of see like how well everyone is kind of getting familiar with Trailhead to encourage people to adopt it more.